Hey everybody, thanks for watching and listening. It's been a while since on this podcast, I've had a bunch of guests, so it's been a while since I've answered questions, and I always enjoy those podcasts. In fact, there was a time when this podcast was really dedicated strictly to answering your questions, because that seems to be an endless amount of information I could throw out there to answer your questions, and some of them are really unique, and I enjoy doing it. And it's really good to start a Monday with giving you some answered questions about me or what's going on. I want to talk about this new album we have coming out in September, and I want to talk about the Earl Dibbles truck restoration videos that have seemed to be on long hiatus on this channel, and I want to cover a couple of really cool options here, a couple questions that I fielded them off of Instagram. I went just a couple hours ago and put in my story, asked me some questions for the podcast, and then I went through and screenshotted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 15 of them. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but those are ones that just caught my eye right off the bat, and it's going to be a fun episode. So these are good ones. Welcome to the Granger Smith Podcast.
Dip cans and diesel, mud tires and smoke. Long line of 4x4s bumping down an old back road. Granger cold ones high, it's a redneck invasion. Yeah, you're rocking with that Yee Nation.
Getting right into it right now. First question comes from Chris on Instagram, and it says, is there any chance that you're going to go on tour in Europe at some point? And the reason I screenshotted that question is because I saw a lot of them. Either they were specific to Italy or Germany or England or Ireland. And my answer to that is a little bit sad, because in 2020 we actually did have a European tour scheduled in September and October, and we had to cancel that probably in April. We held on for a while during the craziness of COVID. So we held on as long as we could, then found out it was best for everybody. Promoters wanted to cancel. We thought it's probably best to push that to 2021. So I would expect to go to Europe in 2021 for a tour. Chris, I'm sorry it's not this year. I love Europe. I love traveling to Europe. I love playing Europe. We've done several tours over there. One in particular was a United States military base tour in Germany and Italy that was just a riot. I guess I shouldn't use that word these days, but it was so much fun. We had a little bus that we traveled around and went to these military bases and saw some towns that we wouldn't have normally gone to on a tourist route. And gosh, I'd crave it. I crave Europe for beer and coffee and food, unbelievable architecture, history. I'm a history buff, all the wars. So anyway, yeah, that's Chris. That's definitely in the plan. And here's Mrs. Ashton on Instagram. She said, update on the house build. So that's a good question. Amber and I are going to build a farmhouse out on the property where we have right now, where we're currently living in an RV, and it's been such an adventure. I'm going to be sad to get away from the RV at some point, because it's really been fun to have this minimalist lifestyle with the kids and really focus on each other and our time together and the environment. I mean, when it's hot outside, it's hot in that barn. That's where we're living. If it's cold outside, haven't been there yet, but I'm sure it's going to be cold. And we'll just be very in tune. Like today, it's actually rained a little bit. And, you hear it in the whole barn. You hear the rain and you hear the thunder, and you feel just very much a part of the land. So that being said, I am going to be a little bit sad when we have to leave that RV. But that being said, we're supposed to break ground on this farmhouse in about a month. So this particular builder, who's a friend of ours, likes to have everything picked out, everything done before they break ground. So that means flooring and walls and fixtures and faucets and all that stuff. He likes to have it all done so that whenever we finish that and hit go, there's no turning back. About a month, Ashton. This is a funny one. What made you make the yee? That's the question. And there's always, anytime I ask for questions, there's always questions about that. Where does yee come from? Where did you get yee? Why do you say yee? I even tell people in the crowd sometimes, I'll say somewhere in the show, I'll say, hey, by the way, if you came to this show and for some reason don't know what yee means, it means live life to the fullest. And in a nutshell, that's what it means, live life to the fullest. It means that because that's the meaning we gave it. And going back to the origins of it, it came from the very first Earl Dibbles video. Before it was a music video, before all that, it was called Earl Dibbles Jr. I think it was called The Country Boy Part 1 or Country Boy Part 1. It was back in 2011 in July. And right in the middle of that video, if you go watch that video, right in the middle, and I'll link at the top of the description, Earl says, holds up a shotgun and he says, yee. And that just wasn't that big a deal. It was like, it's like an old Texas cattle call. And there was a couple of other takes where he said multiple yees. But the one that actually made the video that I edited, it was just 2, yee. And that was the luckiest thing I've ever said. It's the luckiest thing Earl Dibbles Jr. ever said for me. And I remember that I knew it was catching on. We didn't think that much of it, me and my brothers, but people started coming to our shows holding up signs that said yee. They also held up signs that said crack a cold one, put a good dip in, I got a tough schedule. They said things to other quotes from that video, but yee was the interesting one that they held up signs. And I remember as that video started going viral, I'll never forget one day driving in Lampasas, Texas, and there was a truck dealership. And in the front windshield of all the trucks in Lampasas, it said yee in every windshield, a little sign. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is bad. We need to trademark this right now, because I knew that if we didn't trademark it, somebody else would, and then make us not be able to say it. And this was right during the time. The reason I knew that is because it was right during the time when that video came out, the very first Earl Dibbles t-shirt, the very first one. I guess it was I'm sitting here at the Yee farm, the headquarters of Yee Apparel, the very first Yee Apparel shirt ever. On the front, it said, I'm a country boy. And on the back, it said, I got a tough schedule. I wake up, put a good dip in, crack a cold. It was like a list, and it had a little check down the list. Well, just a few weeks after we started selling that shirt, we got a cease and desist letter from a company. I believe it was in Ohio. And the letter said, you cannot use the phrase, country boy. And I thought that was the oddest thing. I was like, we can't say country boy? On a koozie or on a t-shirt or any kind of merchandise? That was the weirdest thing to me. But evidently, there is a company, and they have trademarked country boy and country girl. And they don't let anybody use it. And that's kind of part of their shtick. They're the only ones that could sell shirts like that. It's a terrible business to be in if that's your business plan, is to just shut down anyone else that says it so that you could be the only one, but then no one really buys your shirts. I even know for a fact that Luke Bryan, when he came out with Country Girl, Shake It For Me, they literally shut down the shirts that said Country Girl, Shake It For Me, because they couldn't use Country Girl together on one shirt. So because of that, it really motivated me to step up with Yee and say, oh gosh, we got to trademark this, not so that it's ours, away from just stealing it away from the world, but more so that the world couldn't take it and tell us never to say it again or never to put it on shirts. Can you guys imagine if I had let that slip away? what would this farm be called? What would this apparel company be called? What would Earl Dibbles say after that? So it was a scary deal, and it was scary because it cost me $5,000 to trademark that. And that was everything that we all had combined. We pulled every penny we had together and were able to salvage $5,000 for this trademark. And that's digging into grocery money back in 2011. And so now it was scary and terrible and heartbreaking and gave me so much anxiety. But looking back on it, it's probably the best thing I ever did for my career was pay that $5,000. And by the way, there's also been other podcasts that go way more in depth about Yee. That's kind of the short story. Next question from Bailey Marshall says, what would you recommend doing in the mornings to mentally prepare for the day? And I think that's an awesome question. Thank you, Bailey. I screenshotted it, and I can answer that in a couple ways. One, I like to get up earlier than I need to, as many times as I physically can. And why I say physically can is because I need to get 7 hours. And I've done so much research on this, and I've read so many books about this, and I've studied history so much about it. And you can hear flip sides of the story. Like I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger one time saying, if you want to achieve more in life, you got to sleep less. And I know what he means, but it's also proven over and over again that if you sleep less than your needed time, then you are going to function at half the capacity, the mental capacity of what you would on a normal sleep night. So if you think you're going to get ahead in life by sleeping 4 hours and getting up early every morning, like maybe you go to bed at midnight and wake up at 4, and then you think you have more of the day, it's not technically right, because you run into this sleep deprivation problem where you're only functioning at 50% of your brain or less. I mean, it's proven that you're worse off than being drunk when you sleep deprive yourself. That being said, everyone kind of has their time that they need, and I have figured out that 7 hours is my minimum time to sleep. I could sleep 7 to 8. If I get anything over 8, that affects me negatively too. That kind of makes me groggy. I feel weird after 8 hours, and I feel unproductive. So I try to get right at 7. And the reason I lead into that is to go to your morning question is, I like to get up earlier if I can. An hour earlier than I need to is great. So if I have a meeting at, say, 8 o'clock, and I have a phone call at 8 o'clock, and I need to do like the normal morning stuff, like wake up, wipe the sleep out of my eyes, take a drink and brush my teeth and all that kind of stuff, get dressed. I sound like Earl Dibbles now. So if that takes 30 minutes, then that brings me back to 7:30. That means I need to get up at 6:30 to have an hour between 6:30 and 7:30 to do my morning routine. That consists, number one, of being absent from my phone. So I learned a long time ago that I can't wake up and pull up my phone and start checking emails and checking text messages, going about, God forbid, social media. I cannot do that first thing in the morning. It just puts you on the wrong path. So I like to have that hour to do some reading, to have a little very primitive journal that I'll write in just for exercise sake, that I could write what's going on in my life. Nothing detailed, nothing poetic, just heading on tour to the Northwest tomorrow, early morning flight. Lincoln played baseball with me last night. Just primitive stuff, because that helps me a lot to be able to journal. And so reading, journaling, and having some quiet time. I love the mornings. It's my favorite time. So if I could have a cup of coffee and be outside with the birds and with the sunrise, watching the sun come up. That is such a key factor in getting my day going in the right direction. After that, I always work out. So if I'm going to have a long workout, I also have to factor that into my morning routine whenever my day's supposed to start. So that usually takes me about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to get a good workout. I usually do strength training at the very least, get a good sweat going. So if I could do all of those things I mentioned before that phone call or meeting or whatever it is to start my day, I'm just a lot better off. I'm a lot better off during the day. And Bailey, I hope that kind of answers your questions. But I could say if you could do anything that I just said, anything, get your required hours of sleep and don't get your phone first thing in the morning. Next question. What's the hardest thing you've ever gone through being a country singer? And that question, I'm going to stick with the business side. And I'm assuming that you were talking about, because you put in country singer, I'm assuming you're talking about the business side, not the personal side. Like, you didn't say what's the hardest thing you've ever gone through as a human being. You said country singer, so I'm assuming you mean business. So if it's business, there's two things that come to mind. One was, let's throw aside COVID, because COVID wins that battle every time. Because the hardest thing I ever did as a country singer was shut down my entire tour, tell my band they don't have a job, and scrap for the last 6 months. So that throws everything out of the window right now. So besides COVID, it would be one of two things. One, falling off the stage and breaking ribs, puncturing a lung, and then having that setback of recovery. But I don't think that was as much of an ordeal to me as when I lost my voice. And I lost my voice just screwing around with one of the guys on the crew. We were kind of horsing around, wrestling on the bus in front of everybody, and he put me in a chokehold with his forearm, and it caused swelling in my throat, in my vocal cord. And then I sang that night at a show and burst that blood vessel. That killed my voice. It completely went away. I had nothing but a whisper. And that was the hardest thing I've had to go through as a country singer, not being able to sing. I did a whole podcast about that crazy day and that crazy night and the recovery it took after that. It definitely put a lot of things in perspective for me, and taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot about the value of myself, and how grateful I am for just a normal day of being able to use my voice. Judith Rose asked me, what do you think are the most important qualities of being a good husband? It's interesting that Judith, a female, is asking me what I think the most important qualities of being a good husband are. And I hope for a couple of reasons, Judith, I hope you're not either judging your current spouse, or I hope you're not going to use my advice to decide who you like or not to marry one day. And as anything on this podcast, you guys can't take my word for gospel. I'm just giving you what I think. And so what I think the good qualities are what I've experienced with Amber, and that is honesty. It's got to be number one. And number two is forgiveness. And a lot of times with Amber and I, that forgiveness starts before a fight or an argument even happens. Meaning, she could do something that might be annoying or something I don't believe in fundamentally, but I know quickly that it's not worth it. It's not worth what that could cause if I start a disagreement, especially if I know she's passionate about it. And the truth is, we've both learned how to forgive each other before the problem even starts. So that's different than getting in a huge brawl, and then at the end of it, then I forgive her. Right? So before that even happens, I look at her and I just go, you know what? She's a human being like I am. She's a very smart human being, probably smarter, not probably, a lot smarter than I am. And she feels that way, or she does that, or she thinks that way. And she's entitled to that. And who am I to tell her otherwise? And if it's a fundamental disagreement, as in disciplining kids or something like that, then we both approach each other in a very civil way. Like, you know, instead of putting it on her, like, you know what you should do, instead of doing that to London, I'll approach it like, how could I help you with that problem you're having with London? Or can you let me deal with her? You let me deal with London in this. I have an idea on maybe how to make this outcome better. It might not work, but can I try that? Can I try that on London? Instead of saying, babe, you're wrong. Why would you do that? You're wrong. That's not the right way. There's nothing that's going to come out of that. Nothing besides me being right. And that's not fun. Me being right means nothing. It doesn't change anything. So, Judith, I hope that helps you. Next question. That's funny. Literally the next question. How do you discipline your children? My son likes to say no a lot, and he's almost 4. Brandon, #yee. Brandon, first of all, as you know, I don't have to tell you, buddy, that if your son says no a lot and he's 3 years old, that's natural. That's totally normal. And we both understand it's like the puppy theory. When you see a little lab puppy chewing on the corner of the table, you know, it's cute, but you imagine him as a full-grown dog doing that, and that's not cute anymore. You know, that's trouble. That's a bad dog. So it's the same thing when a little 3-year-old is talking back and telling you no all the time. At some levels, it's cute and it's understandable, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, man, I don't want this to turn into a teenager that's doing this to me. My mother used to always tell me, you have to break their will, but not their spirit. And there's a big difference. And you need to curb them and break their will and show them the right way without tearing down their spirit. And so many ways you could accomplish that. One, you got to just really praise them for the things they're doing good. Like if they do something good, you got to praise them a lot. Like, good job, buddy. That's so good. That is so good. You're such a good boy. That was great. And then on the flip side, if they do something wrong, instead of a personal attack, even with a 3-year-old, it works with 3-year-olds all the way up. It works with adults. If they do something wrong, you don't attack them personally. You don't attack their spirit. Instead, you just attack the action. Like, buddy, you are a good boy. You are a good boy, but that was not a good decision. That was wrong. You do not do that. You're a good boy. You know better. You know, reinforce that, hey, they're smart. They can make their own decisions. They can't because they're 3, but you could reinforce that they can, and it helps grow them up that way. To more specifically answer your discipline question, our kids, you know, all 3 of our kids are very different in the way that they take discipline. Lincoln, he responds very well to a spanking. So I could spank him in the right way where I know that it's just enough to get his attention, not enough to hurt him. And then he focuses on me, and then I could focus on fixing it by saying, buddy, you're a good boy. You are a smart boy, but you know better than that. You know better than to do that. And with London, it's totally different because I have spanked her a few times, and she only responds with aggression, and so that doesn't if your kid responds to a spanking with aggression, then the answer to that is not another spanking that's harder, right? So with London, and you just got to learn what it is that hurts them, and it doesn't have to be physical. So with London, it's taking something away. So if she's responding with something, or if I'm responding with some kind of discipline due to her bad actions, it's easy for me to say, okay, I'm taking away your doll. No, please, nope, taking it away. You'll see her in the morning. And I could take away that doll and I could hide her till the morning, and that hurts her so bad. That really helps drive home that she was in the wrong. And then once again, I just reinforce that she's a good girl. Just today, right before this podcast, we were playing baseball in the yard, and we were doing this just fun game where the kids were throwing a baseball at the barn and then fielding their reflection of the baseball as if they were in a game. And they were kind of competing against each other, the two kids. And London was doing good. She was doing really good fielding the ball, and then she asked me to start filming her. So I started filming her so she could show her mama. And she missed a couple of the baseballs while I was filming. She got so mad, she threw her glove on the ground and started storming off. So I grabbed her. I said, nope, we're not ending like that. No, I'm not. I hate this game. I'm not good. So I grabbed her and said, no, do it again. No, I don't want to do it again. I said, do it again. We're not going to leave till you do it again. You're not. She said, but I don't want to. Why are you making me do this? And I said, because you're mad. It's not because you're bad at baseball. It's because you're mad, and you can't end a game mad. So do it again. So she did it a couple more times, finally got it in her glove. And then when she got it in her glove, and then her face lit up, and then I ran, I grabbed her and said, perfect. You see how much better that feels? You see how much better that feels? And it was really, really awesome because she had a huge smile on her face. And then she started leaving the field, going back to the barn. And she said, thank you, Daddy. And I was like, oh man, just that thank you, Daddy was this little beautiful moment inside me. And I was like, man, that was great. Anytime you could actually do something in parenting and feel that reward, it's pretty awesome. So I got it this morning. I hope that helps you, Brandon. I'm going to take a quick break, reset this camera. This podcast is brought to you by Raycon, and I've talked to you about Raycon earbuds before. Whether you're working from home or working on fitness, whatever you're doing, whatever you're listening to, for me, it's been this new album, working so hard on this new album. I love to grab a mix, go get in my truck, throw on the Raycons, and it's a really good way to get a proper interpretation of these new songs and a new mix. Everyone needs a great pair of wireless earbuds, but before you can't go drop hundreds of dollars. I mean, there's so many earbuds that are so expensive. And so before you do that, you have to check out Raycon. They're literally half the price of the premium wireless earbuds on the market, and they sound amazing. They sound just as good as any top audio brand that you know. And I could tell you that going from mix in my truck and listening to these, it's really spot on. In fact, when you get this new album of mine, you should get some Raycons and check it out. The newest model, the Everyday E25 earbuds, are their best ones yet. They have 6 hours of playtime, which is perfect for guys like me if I'm on an airplane or on the bus and I'm not around a charger. They have seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, a more compact design that gives you a nice noise isolating fit. It's really important to kind of block out the world around you. You guys have heard me talk about all the different celebrities that endorse these guys, like Snoop Dogg. I mean, if it's good enough for Snoop, right? There's so many celebrities that are obsessed with Raycons, and that should really say something. Now is the time to get the latest and greatest from Raycon. So get 15% off your order at buyraycon.com/Granger. That's buyraycon.com/Granger. You get 15% off Raycon wireless earbuds. buyraycon.com/Granger. That's GRANGER. Use that promo code and get them, and then let me know what you think. You can get that 15% off. So many questions have been coming in about this new album, and it's hard for me to answer it right now. because I know a lot about it and I could tell you a lot about it, but I'm kind of have my hands tied a little bit because we're going to do some official announcements as they come. So I could tell you this: it's coming at the end of September. I could also tell you, and I'll drop this information on the podcast, and no one else knows this information. Okay, the only time I'll say it is right here on this podcast. You ready? There's going to be more after the September release. Okay, so the music's going to come out at the end of September, but that won't be the end of it. You're going to be getting a lot of music from me this fall. We'll put it that way, okay? And I'm very excited about it. We'll say that too. Here's a question that says, what's your favorite muscle car? I like that question because I would say 1969 Charger. I grew up watching Dukes of Hazzard. I've always loved that car. And guess what? I've never driven one. I've never driven a 69 Charger. So, hey, if any of you guys have one out there and you want to let it come to the Yee farm, drive it down the Yee farm, we'll do a video. We'll do a podcast. We'll talk about what it's like to drive a 69 Charger. I would love that. Another question about the new album. Have you rehearsed any of the new songs for playing live yet? Yes, buddy, we have. We just started, as I get together with the band, either one of these live at the Yee Farm sessions or these little tours that we've been running on. We've been kind of getting together, and a lot of these guys played on the album, so they already know them pretty well. In fact, Fish, my guitar player on my right side, if you're looking at me, your left side on the stage, he produced a lot of songs with me, so he knows them backwards and forwards, and we cannot wait to start digging in and playing these. And I could tell you something else. Here's another nugget I'll drop on the podcast. You're going to get your first taste of it this month, okay? You're going to get a taste of it this month. It might be the end of the month, but just saying. Really, really exciting. Dylan says, any advice for someone trying to follow in your footsteps? You're my idol and want to be an artist. Yeah, buddy. Let me say, first of all, on to your question, I don't like that word idol, man. I don't like that word idol. I know what you mean. I appreciate it. I'm grateful for you. At the same time, no humans are idols because humans are just going to fail you. So you put too much hope in one person and one human, eventually they're going to do something that you don't like, and that kind of hurts. So make God your idol, buddy. Because I'm gonna mess it up for you, dude. I'm gonna mess it up for you. My number one advice is wherever you are, Dylan, whatever hometown you're in, stay in your hometown and play the music there. Play to your buddies, play to your friends, play as that group grows and builds out and out. And write songs about your hometown and write songs about your buddies and write songs about right there what you know. And if you don't write songs, that's another piece of advice. Write songs. If you don't know an instrument, like a guitar or a piano, learn an instrument. YouTube is full of great tutorials now. But learn an instrument, write some songs, but stay in your hometown. Don't go to Nashville or LA or New York. You don't need to do that anymore. And it's just a cesspool of corruption, music corruption. There's so many good people there, but the collection of the good people starts making bad things happen, and you don't want to throw away all your time doing that. So stay in your hometown, crank it up, play in your local bars. If you don't have a gig at the local bar, go to your local bar and ask if you could host an open mic night. Obviously, it's a weird time right now with COVID, but eventually host an open mic night and just tell the guy. I went to this place when I lived in College Station, Texas. And I just went in there. No one knew who I was. The owner didn't know who I was. I just, hey, man, I'm Granger Smith. I'm a singer. I know you don't know me, but would you let me come in here on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. and host an open mic night? And if you let me do that, could I play some of my original music in between guests? And he was like, how much? And I was like, I'll do it for tips. You don't have to pay me a penny. I'll do it for tips. And he said yes, and that grew and grew and grew, and pretty soon we had a pretty good crowd there every Thursday. And I built a band, and then the band started playing there. It's like I had a gig every single week right there. So, and it doesn't have to be a big place either. Timothy says, what career achievement has meant most to you? And man, that's another tough question about music business that I would say getting a number one song on Billboard and Mediabase, having that was the greatest achievement. It didn't last very long. It only lasted, that week, we were number one. And then it was all about the next single and the next album and the next tour. But during that moment, just relishing that moment was amazing. And being able to hang the plaque on the wall that said number one song in all of the world, that's my biggest career achievement. Another music question. I'm dying to know your writing process. Do you write all the music parts? So my music process, and I've talked a little bit on this podcast about it, but my writing process could come from different places. Sometimes it can come from a title or a first line or a line in the chorus. It could also come from just a melody that I'm humming in my head, and I have some kind of melody in my head. And I take notes on the lyric things on my phone here, and then I'll sing the melodies on my voice memos on my phone and record those. Sometimes the whole song comes together as a package in my head, but most of the time they're separate melodies and lyrics. And so that I have to, if I get a really cool melody in my head, I pull up my notes and I flip through the lyrics and I see if anything sounds like that. Like, does anything match that musically? And vice versa. If I get a really cool lyric and I think I got to write this title, then I'll start flipping through my voice memos and listening to me ridiculously hum a melody or play something on the guitar. And I'll see if any melodies match that lyric. And you really know right away when a lyric matches a melody. It's like, oh, that's it. Or no, that's definitely not it. You just kind of know. And to your question, do you write all the music parts? I do, but I don't write them in a sense of musical graphs. Like, I don't have to get a music graph and draw out the notes. I could just write a music chart, which is a number chart, which is just chords, and then I could record that. And then when I bring people in to record an album, they could play off of what I did on my work tape, my original work tape. And luckily I do all my own recording, so I'm right there with everyone when a guitar player comes in or a keyboard player comes in. But I also trust heavily on the musicians, so I have a couple guys that I really trust, like at keyboard or guitar, and I could sit down and say, hey, here's my idea, but you do what you do. And they hear it and they go, oh, what if we tried this? And here comes this beautiful piano, keyboard, whatever part, fiddle, steel. And it just comes flowing out. And a song is born that way. Ooh, here we go, switching gears a little bit. Molly says, do you believe in baptism in addition to asking God into your heart to be saved? And then suddenly the podcast took a turn. Let me read that question again. Do you believe in baptism in addition to asking God into your heart to be saved? My answer is a definite no. I do not believe in baptism in addition to asking God into your heart to be saved. So Molly is referring to Christianity and a major turning point in Christianity that happened about 500 years ago after the Roman Catholic Church. So just a quick recap of the history of Christianity, if anyone is wondering. It started with the God of the Jews. So it was the Jewish faith, and everyone that believed in Israel, that believed in the God of Israel, the God of Moses, and the God of Abraham, They were waiting for a Messiah that was prophesied to them through the Old Testament scriptures. So they were waiting on this Messiah. In steps Jesus. Most of you know Jesus, or at least the story of him. Jesus came to the earth, born of a virgin, and came in a way that it was prophesied exactly. But most people were expecting a big, powerful king that would come in and free the Jewish people of all their bonds that they had to the Roman Empire at the time. And here comes Jesus, a son of a carpenter, and very modest, preaching love and talking to children and mingling with the poor and prostitutes and thieves. And he was preaching to them. And a lot of people could not understand that. That was the first division of Christ versus Judaism. So then the second division comes soon, to help your question, Molly. The second division comes literally 500 years later, when after Jesus is gone and he's not on earth anymore, the Roman Empire gets taken over by the church. And that is a long process of how that happens. But it happened with the emperor at the time, becomes converted to Christianity. When they found out truly that Jesus' message was, if you believe in me, you will be saved. Through faith, right? So faith in me will grant you my grace and the keys to heaven. So it's faith by grace to eternity. And it's so simple. That's the easiest idea, but that's what he preached. And that's what all the apostles preached. But when it became a government soon after, a few hundred years later, there was a huge worry that the people would start living in terrible lives if all they had to do was believe, or as Molly says, ask God into your heart to be saved. If that's all it took to be saved, then they worried that people would live crazy lives and it would be chaos. So they wanted to add a bunch of things. The Catholic Church wanted to make sure that you needed to do this and this, and then pray to the Virgin Mary, and make sure you get baptized, and make sure you go to Mass, and make sure you're a good person, and put all these things on human virtue, when Christ preached that human virtue is never going to be enough. It's never enough. No matter what you do, no matter what sin you have, no matter how good you are, that's never enough to get into heaven. Only truly faith in him would save you. So about 500 years after Christ, the reformists come in, guys like Martin Luther, and they came in and they were looking at the Catholic Church, who was making you get baptized. Like, if you don't get baptized, you're not going to heaven. Guys like Martin Luther said, guys, I don't think that's right. Like, where in the Bible does it say you have to get baptized or you're not going to heaven? Where in the Bible does it say that we need to ask forgiveness from the Pope, and then, or a priest, and then the priest would give us forgiveness? Where does it say that? I thought it was supposed to be all about Jesus. So that was a big, really big deal, and it was the official split of Protestants from the Catholics. Long story short, this has been a huge tangent, but Molly, I am a Protestant. I believe that through faith alone are you saved. And then we switched to, will there be a pre-order to the new album? Yes, we will. There'll be a pre-order to the new album, and there will be a pre-order. I'm almost sure, breaking news on this podcast, I'm almost sure, at the end of August. Ben says, what drew you to music as a kid, especially George Strait, and how did that shape you? Man, I think it was all about girls, honestly, because I there were some friends of mine that played guitar, and they were, a lot of girls like that. A lot of girls like the guys that played guitar and the guys that sang when they played guitar. And I just remember thinking, like, I want to be one of those guys. I want to have that edge. So I learned the guitar first. I learned to sing second, and then I saw George Strait third. And those sequence of events heavily shaped me and drew me into music. To answer your question, Ben. Here's a question. How's Earl's truck going? Man, I think that's the most popular question on my YouTube page right now. And we've been on this hiatus from fixing Earl's truck. We're doing this series called Restoring Earl Dibble's Old Truck. And we've been on a hiatus because we finished all of our parts. We took the truck all the way down to the frame, and we finished that, and we took the body to the auto body shop to put a new roof on that was ruined. So we had to put a new roof on the body. And as we took it there, a massive hailstorm hit the state of Texas about 2 months ago and swamped the auto body shop with work. So they had to stick with all that real money coming in before they could take on a fun project like ours. And it put us on the back burner. So it's hugely disappointing. I'm very frustrated about it. I understand where they're coming from. They got to chase the money. They got to do that. But they keep telling me that they're going to get on it. So I'm expecting a new episode of Restoring the Truck very soon. I might go film one tomorrow, and then after that, we should get this cab going at the auto body shop. So I'm sorry to everyone that's waiting on it, and I just got to tell you that I'm just as frustrated as you guys are, for sure. Here's one from Dirk. It says, "What do you do when all the band members do not agree on an issue?" And I think it's a great question, and that's why I screenshotted it, because it could kind of relate to so many things in life, and anyone else that works with a group of people or has a group of friends or a family, or we're just going to have disagreements. We just are. In fact, this last tour, we had a pretty deep disagreement, and it was a two crew members versus pretty much everyone else. And first and foremost, I like to hear everybody out. I don't like them to be rude about it. I don't like I don't like anyone to be called out or put down personal attacks. But I like to hear them out. So I want to hear them out personally first. Hear what they got to say, and hear their best argument for whatever they want, whatever their disagreement is. And then I like to get everybody together. And if it's not worked out by then when everyone comes together, I can kind of become the mediator and say, okay, here's what this person thinks, and here's why they think it. And here's why I think that they have a good point, and here's why I think I could see why they're wrong. And then everyone else kind of chimes in, and we essentially have a big vote. So we'll have half the crew saying, man, this is crazy. And then these guys are saying, well, have you thought of it this way? And almost every time when we do that, people start putting themselves in the other person's shoes, and it really diffuses the situation. So if we get in front of each other, instead of texting, or the worst thing that could happen is two little groups start texting each other, and then this group starts texting each other. And then they come to me and they're like, do you hear what that group's saying? And they're like, yeah, don't listen to that group. They're lying to you. They're kissing up to you. Whatever. That seems to be a popular thing to say. So, but once we get face to face and we get everybody on the bus, or everyone, that we did this in Wichita, Kansas, literally last week, we stopped the bus and I said, all right, we're going to have a meeting. We have a lot of meetings. And we all get out. We get outside the bus, and I kind of lead it like a courtroom. It's like, okay, here's this case, and in respect to this person, we're going to modify what we're doing a little bit because they feel so passionately about it. But in respect to this person over here, you need to settle down a little bit. And then what I love to do is, if anyone's called out or put down, or there's a personal attack going on, I always love to hear a public apology in front of everyone. And I require it. So that person has to get up and just say, from the heart, guys, I'm sorry for overreacting on the group text or the email or last night. Sorry for yelling. I was out of line. Shouldn't have done it. I wish I wouldn't have sent that text. I now see things a little bit differently. I still feel passionately about this subject. And then every time that happens, everything's defused. And then people it becomes not that big a deal. It's that old saying, is this the hill you want to die on? And it usually becomes not that big a deal. Last question says, when can we expect some previews from the new album? Man, I'm so excited to show you guys this new album. I'm so excited to show you some previews. We're kind of filming some music video stuff right now. So I would say the same answer I've said 3 times on this podcast so far, the month of August. Expect in this month, might be the end of it, but expect this month you're going to start getting previews or samples or teases, but you'll definitely get some stuff this month, and then you're going to have the full album in September, and then that's not the last thing you're going to expect from me this fall. So a lot of really cool stuff coming. If you have another question, comment below. If you're on YouTube, comment below, and we'll try to get to that on the next time. But love you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I love this platform that I get to sit here on this podcast and talk to you guys. So appreciate you so much. We'll see you next time. Yee yee.